All righty. Well, welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Salsa School District Board of Trustees. So glad to see all of you here tonight. I'm calling the regular meeting to order. A recording and our broadcast of this meeting is being made at the direction of the board, which may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. If technical difficulties occur or persist, the meeting will continue without broadcasting. I'm gonna call the roll. Jim?
Here.
Brian?
Present.
Stella? Here. Vladimir?
Here.
And I too am here. All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would any board members like to provide comment on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, then may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second? I'll second. Thank you, Stella. Motion to approve tonight's agenda as presented was made by Vladimir and seconded by Stella. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. No action was taken in closed session tonight. Superintendent's update.
All right, I have a few updates for you tonight, starting with staff and tonight's personnel action. You will notice that we will be, with your approval, welcoming Henry Cervantes, who will serve as our next Director of Maintenance and Operations. He'll be starting kind of mid-December-ish. He comes to us from a neighboring district with great experience. We are so happy to have him join us. And then tonight, I also want to recognize in the back here, Dr. Valerie Rogers, our new Director of Human Resources, who started November 1st. And also Valerie comes to us with outstanding experience. So we're so thrilled to have her here. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, Valerie, and welcome, Henry. Right?
Yes.
Welcome, Henry.
And you guys will get a chance to meet Henry after he begins. Since our last meeting in October, I had the chance to meet with Maureen Israel, the Executive Director of Bullis Charter School. She came, it was a great day, actually. She came on Halloween, was able to do some trick-or-treating with our preschool lovies. So that was great. We always have excellent conversations. We were really talking about getting back to talks together to talk about future facilities. So that was a very positive meeting, and we're looking forward to getting that process back underway. I also wanted to let all of you know that Shally and I have a new process in place where Shally is reviewing our credit card purchases, the district-wide credit card purchases, just to make sure that we continue to remain fiscally transparent and above board with our finances. And then also wanted to share that we continue to make progress, and Eric might do a little bit more on his updates later tonight. In the design development phase for the 10th site and talking about bond, as we did a whole activity with our leadership team, really getting into the San Antonio's site and what feedback do our principals have and other leaders in the district have around decisions that are being made for that site, and got some feedback on the bond program as well and what their priorities are for their campus. So we will continue to do that work with our leadership team. And that's it for me this evening.
Thank you. A lot going on. That's part of the meeting coming right up. Stand and read a school presentation.
Well, I am just so happy to be here tonight. Thank you for welcoming us, and thank you for our families for coming out. And a big round of applause to our wonderful teachers. They have just been so creative in how they want to support our wonderful science standards while still using our TWIG curriculum. They have decided to do something a little special this year. I won't give it, I'll let them showcase it, but this really encompasses deeper learning, authentic learning experiences. And I think you will hear from the children how excited they are about this little addition that we have. So welcome.
Here.
Okay, so this year, we were starting our science unit on what do living things need. We decided to do it with a little twist.
So we teach this unit every year as it's part of kindergarten standards. But this year, as we're focusing on deeper learning, and the two of us are in a practitioner group trying to learn more about and strengthen our practice, we wanted to think about this unit with a few of these moves in mind. So for me, I was excited to try out a little bit more questioning and inquiry in the beginning of the unit, and then throughout the unit, documenting learning so that the kids could see the progression of learning, but also see their own writing and their own artifacts in the documentation. And then at the end of the unit, giving them an authentic task that they could do, but also choice in how they wanted to show what they learned.
Similarly for me, I've been looking at provocation and using provocation to guide conversation and following talk protocols so that we can expand on our learning, and as well as have a shared learning space where we can constantly use to reflect on our learning, which is where the metacognition piece comes in. Okay, so one protocol we explored this year was the talk pencil, which was something that we learned about in our teacher practitioner cohort. And we started the unit by looking at what do living things need. We looked at a range of animals across a range of habitats, and then we observed some of the questions you can't really see in those slides. In the question pencil protocol are what can a living thing do? What should a living thing need, etc. So we kind of use those questions in our talk pencil to generate some conversations about what they need.
And then in our classroom, we started the unit by looking at a live stream of the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and the kids just came up with questions that they had that start with the sentence starter, how, what, can, and I dictated the questions that they had. A really good one up there is, why do fish float in water and not fall down? Which is a great question. And then later on in the unit, we looked at actual pictures of living things, and I tried to kind of segue into, here's some living things eating something, here are living things drinking something, breathing air, etc. And then the notes where it's more of children drawing is where they then began dictating their questions they had about what living things need. And next, and then next, we then tried to make it a little bit clearer and more specific. These are the photos that they were looking at when they developed these questions. But then we took those pictures and we sorted them into similar needs, and then had the children label what each group was. So on the left-hand side, I dictated the word water, and then from there, they labeled the food, something living things need, air, and home, or shelter up top.
Similarly, on the other side, in room 7, that was a range of living things across different habitats that we looked at, and the sticky notes that are on there are all students thinking about what they are noticing when they recorded what they were noticing, and then use that shared space to share our noticings and learnings. Okay, so here's the twist. When we were exploring in our teacher practitioner group, we were looking at how do we use some of these deeper learning moves that we've been learning about. We thought about how do we really hone into what living things need? One idea was that we adopt animals. We thought maybe you might frown on it. So we had to shelve that idea for now. The next best alternative was to actually adopt virtual pet. So we were researching and we found this barn called Charlie's Acres. And it's a rescue barn, it's a sanctuary for rescued animals. And they have some pets, some animals that they offer for adoption.
And then we printed out pictures of all the animals that were up for adoption, as well as the story about each animal that we could read to our students. And then they voted on which farm animal they would like to adopt. So in our class, on the left, you can see the most sticky notes next to a pet named Naomi. She's a sheep who was rescued by Charlie's Acres. When she was a baby, she was stepped on and it broke her spine, and so she gets around with a wheelchair.
In room 7, we voted on a little call duck. Her name is Monroe. She has albinism. She got the most votes, so that's our virtual net this year.
And this is on the left, Naomi, on the right, Monroe. And this is, these are pictures from our first meeting with Naomi and with Monroe. So part of adopting a farm animal from Charlie's Acres is that you get 4 sessions with your animals. You get to learn about them, you get to learn about their specific needs, as well as a little bit of like animal kindness and care. So like today's, we learned about ways that we can learn how animals say, yes, please, like you can be in my space, I'm okay with that, and no, thank you. And this was also a huge thank you to our PTA who funded our grant to be able to adopt the farm animals and then have these sessions with them.
On the right is our first meeting with Monroe. We, during this meeting, we had, before we met Monroe, the class had identified some important questions that they wanted to explore further about Monroe. One of the questions kids were very, very curious about was, what happened to her family? If she's a rescue duck, well, where's her mom? And so in this first meeting, the trainer at Charlie's Acres answered a lot of our questions, and she did answer that burning question that Monroe, we don't know what happened to her mom, but we also met, you can't really tell in that picture, but the little duck is Monroe and the bigger duck is Rosemary. She is her surrogate mom at Charlie's Acres. So we were very, very happy to hear that she, even though she's a rescue pet, she has a family and a, friendships and fun. This is just to share. The big question was, what do living things need? And we were exploring that question more deeply with the help of our virtual pets. So we explored, what does Monroe need? And we honed into what our living thing needs through all of our meetings and all of our explorations with Monroe. Students drew the pictures on those stickies there that she needs water, she needs air, she needs food, she needs a safe space. In the little pond by itself, we also said, well, what about toilets and a family? So we had a conversation about what do you need versus what do you want? And students, really were thinking about it, and they could, independently just share their ideas.
And for us, we brainstormed things that Naomi needs. So kids went off to draw various things that they think Naomi needs, and we cut some of them out to add up here. And there was a lot of grass and hay, water, flowers, things for like water and food, and then a tree for air. And some drew her with her wheelchair. And so we had the conversation as well about needs and extras. And we decided that the wheelchair was actually a need, because without the wheelchair, she may not be able to walk to get water or food, or if she needs to run away from something for any reason, she could not if she doesn't have her wheelchair. And she's also very fast with the wheelchair. I saw it in video sessions.
These are some pictures of the way our students chose to share what they learned. Would you like to go first for this?
Yeah, of course. So, in the pictures on the leftmost area, you can see 2 students are working on a mural that they wanted to make about Naomi, her needs, some extra things like her wants, her habitat. And then next to those, two students decided to make a puppet show. So they made a puppet of Naomi and then some things that she needs, some things she would want. We also learned that she goes to physical therapy every other Wednesday, and on physical therapy days, she also gets to go to the beach. So some kids made the beach a part of their puppet show as well. And in this way, just really trying to honor the choice and getting to choose the way they show what they've learned about Naomi, things she needs, the things that would make her life better. And we were really hopeful we could have some of our scientists share their murals and their puppet shows. We've got a little bit of plague through our room right now. So luckily, we've got some friends from room 7 to share a little bit about what they've done with thinking about Monroe.
We have some friends here from room 7 who would love to show you what we made. What is this called? Would you like to show me what you want? Yeah. We were making habitats for Monroe. Some things we thought about including in her habitat or in her home are, what does she need? She needs, oh, very nice. Can you show where the water is in your habitats? Yeah, where's yours, Luke? What else did you think of when you were building it? She needs water and air. Very nice. Can you show us what? And what's the structure that you made? What is it called? That an aviary? Okay. What's the, oh, and would you like to show this? Let me stop. That's Monroe. I don't know if you can see, but they have Monroe in their habitats. We thought about that we should include air, we should include water, and we should include what else in there? Food and food. Hey. So you can also. We can do it. I'm gonna read that. You can walk that or just march. Yeah. Watch your feet. Go on over. Yep.
Dr. Rogers and I on Friday were lucky enough to just pop in right during the gallery walk time where the entire room 7 was walking around to look at each other's habitats. It's amazing.
And finally, before we say goodbye, we also wanted to invite you all to our Nutcracker performance, which will happen on December 19th. So we'll have some invitations that we'll pass out to you, and we hope that we'll see you there. Thank you so much. Happy night. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for having us.
That was very sweet, and I'm so proud of you guys. Wonderful. That project was like a lot of fun. Right, we're gonna continue on with our meeting. not gonna be nearly as cute or entertaining as what you just saw. On to the consent calendar. Are there any questions from the board on the consent calendar? Seeing none. I don't see any requests for public comment on this item. Okay. In that case, would any board members like to provide any further comment on this agenda item? Okay. Then may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So many.
Thank you, Vladimir. Have a second?
One second.
Thank you, Jim. Motion to approve the consent calendar as presented was made by Vladimir, seconded by Jim. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Employee request to address the board. We have from California School Employees Association, Kim.
Surprise. So I just picked up my lovely child from her day camp at Walden West, and it reminded me, not that I ever forget, how much we love our bits and labs, because I saw them when I dropped off my child at 9 a.m. and they were there when we left at 6 p.m. supporting our kids, because they are the people who know what it means to educate every single child that comes across our threshold. And most families will never interact with them. But when you're a family who needs a bit, they mean the world to you. And it's amazing that these people show up. And I will get emotional because these are people who your child might kick them. Your child might say something unkind to them. Your child might be having the worst day. And they still think tomorrow's going to be a better day because every day they come back to school is a better day. And they believe in your child in a way that honestly is just outstanding to me. I have seen them on both sides, which makes me especially emotional because I've been the mom picking up from them, and I'm the mom who also watches them with students who are not my own and sees the deep belief they have in showing up every day for kids. And they also show up for kids who are not always exactly on their load, and they will jump in. They will never hesitate to support a child. They really, truly give it their all day. They are dropping their lunch to run to another school. They are texting before they get to school because they're figuring out, where am I supposed to be today? What kid needs what? They're thinking ahead 17 steps. They really are here for so many kids in a way that often is not obvious, also because they're often just standing in the back of the room quietly and you have no clue what they're there for, because also they're really respecting privacy, but also having students grow. And that's one of the things that's so hard to explain, is that even sometimes I'm explaining it to staff, is they're stepping back because they have to see what this kid does when they step back. But then they have to learn to step in. And so they're just thinking of a million things, and they really are amazing at what they do. And just over and over again, it means so much to see that we have this amazing group of people who just think that every kid can us be a little bit better version of themselves every day, but it's really about bringing themselves out so that they can be whatever that looks like for them, because they also really speak to the fact that they're not trying to make every student look like each other. They want a child who has agency and student voice, and also is able to meet the child's own expectations for themselves. It really actually is deeper learning in its own version, because it's allowing our kids to access that on a day-to-day basis. And it just really is wonderful. And I'm so grateful they're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. That was a lovely insight into the world of our needs. Yes, I was wishing. Oh. Did we receive it before or after we started the consent?
During.
Yeah, it was kind of during.
Okay. So if you want to submit a speaker card for public comment, it kind of has to be before we get to that agenda item. So unfortunately, we received one speaker card for consent. We'd already started that agenda item. So I'm really sorry, but you can't skip that consent. But feel free to email your public comment to the board. Thank you. Okay. So, here we go. To provide public comment on an agenda item, speaker cards are to be submitted to the superintendent. Speaker cards will not be accepted once public comment begins. Your name will be announced when it is your turn to speak. This time is reserved for members of the public and employees to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board is not permitted to discuss or take action on non-agenda items, except to instruct the superintendent to review the matter further, report back to the board at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. The board may make a brief comment or ask clarifying questions. So on non-agendized items, we've got two people. So, you'll get 3 minutes each. Eric, can we give them 3 minutes?
There you go.
The order will be Kaylee, then Pat, then Jessica. Should say Kaylee Salyers, Pat Broadkey, and then Jessica Mom. Yeah. So just come forward.
And hello, Board, Sandra et al. Many of you know me as the spirited speaker, possibly from my past LATA leadership role or my project-based learning extraordinary events in the therapeutic special day class at Santa Rita Elementary. Some of you don't know my name at all, in which case I will introduce myself as Miss Kaylee. Recently, my moral compass has been shattered. Now, as I do love an underdog performance, I believe it can be repaired, but not without careful tending and an open mind and the utmost respect consideration. I am extremely disappointed in a decision that was made without discussing it with our TSDC team. With that said, I believe we as a district have the capability to practice what we preach in showing the community around us what inclusive and integrated practices look and sound like. I trust that more members of this community can explore and shine empathy, and I honor those who already do. There is a growing concern that decisions affecting our most vulnerable students are being made without transparent communication or meaningful involvement from all stakeholders. When those with firsthand knowledge of a student's needs, history, progress, and supports are excluded from the final decision-making process, and individuals who have never worked in this field or with the student make critical determinations, it sets a troubling and deeply discouraging precedent. Beyond the procedural concerns, these choices raise significant ethical questions. Whether intentional or not, removing children with unique needs at the very moment they are struggling, but therapeutically improving with us at the same time, and doing so without input from the professionals who understand their disability and behavioral needs, creates an outcome that feels exclusionary and disproportionately impacts the very students our program exists to support. This is not aligned with the values of equity, inclusion, and non-discrimination that our district publicly upholds. As educators, specialists, and advocates, we are committed to collaborative, student-centered practices. Our hope is that moving forward, decisions of this magnitude will include the voices of the people who work directly with these students every day. By ensuring transparency, teamwork, and a shared understanding of each child's needs, we not only strengthen trust, we safeguard the integrity of our work and honor the moral responsibility we all share to support students, especially to learn how successful our program has been. I will share with you anecdotes from families over the years. As a special education teacher, I can wholeheartedly state that our work is important. It's a micro part of a macro system. And within the entire system, everyone must be held accountable. Lest we not forget that students with disabilities don't lack something. They have extra battles they have to overcome.
Sorry.
And please, I ask you to remember.
Fine. Thank you. Pat Broadkey?
Sounds like my alarm.
Technical. Very good.
Okay, good. Please join me in an exercise. Think of all of you up front and include me as a group of 10. Imagine that we are immigrants from Mexico. We live on California Avenue in the apartments near Showers. Yes, it's diagonal from the new school site. We came to this country many years ago in search of a better life for our future children. We are established in our community. We know that education is critical to our children's success. And we want them to have far more than the elementary education that we are able to access. We're busy parents, and we have figured out ways to drive our children the 1.6 miles across town to Almond School, where they have attended since kindergarten. We want nothing more for our children than for them to succeed in school, and we struggle to help them. We don't know English very well. Our educational backgrounds are limited, and we can't afford to hire private tutors. Well, congratulations to Vladimir, Marcy, and Brian. Your children are achieving at grade level. They're on a good path for high school and can likely attend Foothill, maybe a four-year university. For the rest of us, I'm sorry. Our children are below grade level in their skills. As the years go by, they will fall further behind. They may be 2 or more years behind in their reading levels. They'll be very discouraged and they will feel shame for their poor performance. It will be a struggle for them to complete high school. They may not pursue any further education. So while the Los Altos schools help most students achieve far more than the state averages, this is not true of our community. Of the socioeconomically disadvantaged Latino children in LASD, only 30%, or our 3 out of 10, are achieving at or above grade level. When we speak in terms of percentages, it's easy to forget the 70% have names, loving, dedicated parents, and hopes and dreams for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Mullen?
Are you ready? Eric? Jessica Mullen, I'm Santa Rita parent and a CACF member. Another year of CASP results, and soon we're going to hear about all of the improvements thanks to our amazing staff that we have in this room and our principal and the deeper learning. But looking at the breakdown of data by the LASD schools, you'll
Excuse
still.
me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but is this on student performance data?
So
Is
it
this on
mentioned,
agenda item?
I don't want this time counting. It's not
It's
about,
not gonna count.
okay, yeah, no, it's not about. I mentioned the data, but it is not about data. There's more to it.
Okay.
Okay. You're going to hear about deeper learning and looking at the breakdown of the data by LASD schools, you'll see that Santa Rita is still at 21.55% below the standard compared to the 14.55% at the district level in ELA. And we're 23.37% below standard compared to the 14.54% at district level in math. We're still at the very bottom of the district schools. What concerns me most is not test scores or CAST, but there have been conversations in this room at LAEF with board members and even district employees that Santa Rita is behind. We need resources and support for years now, and we still don't have them. Perhaps our reading scores would be higher if we had a beautiful library like Covington and we were not in a portable trailer. Perhaps our math scores would be higher if we had credentialed aides in classrooms helping students like mine who are struggling. I sit on the CACF committee. I know about the budget struggles. I know that we can redistribute funds to schools based on need. There is a lot of talk about right-sizing staff and aides for the budget, but there is no talk about right-sizing school resourcing. Perhaps Santa Rita can move to the front of the line for an appropriate kinder and TK playground. Perhaps we can pause and upgrade to something that is a nice to have for Santa Rita to get enough aides so our TSTC and RSP aides can take breaks and have the classroom supplies that they need. I stood here last year, this exact same meeting, and highlighted these exact same issues. And I'm kind of done being quiet about it and waiting to see what happens. So I'll see you next month and every month, and I will continue to share data within the community so everyone knows that Santa Rita is still behind the other schools. I am begging you, can we please redistribute funds to make the schools equal? Equality is not the same as equal. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to our first agenda item, 2024-25 student performance data. Mr. Drummond.
Good evening. Folks, I'm excited to share with you tonight results from last year's CASP assessments. I'm going to share some of our great achievements and also point out some ways that we need to continue to do some work to ensure that the students are achieving at or above grade level. I do want to start here. The work we do is based on all the work we do is based on the science of learning and development. We know that the outcomes we get from kids, the things that they know, understand, do, and become is directly related to the quality of experience they have in their classrooms every day. And the converse is true. When we aren't getting the outcomes we want from kids, we need to consider, what are we doing for kids? What's their experience? What are they experiencing every day that's leading to the outcomes that we're getting? And so we are holding these two things, outcomes, experiences, as an important part of looking at this data today. I'll jump right in just to add some context. For the state of California, you can see that there's a lot to be desired in how students in California are performing relative to the standards. 49% meeting or exceeding in ELA, 37% in math, and 33% in science. There's much room for growth there. There's urgency and opportunity in that. For LASD, overall, all our numbers look very different from this, and they have for several years. I'm just going back 3 years here, and I think I've been giving presentations around this for well over 3 years, and we've seen the numbers look very much the same year after year. Our students, since 2022, we've been hovering right around that 84-85% range. In ELA and in math, the same story is true. It's right around 84-85%. We're seeing a slight uptick in the last couple of years. When we start to look into student groups, you can see that there's a general trend that we're starting to see. We are seeing small bits of growth for our subgroups of students. That's not true in every single case, but generally we're seeing little bits of growth. For example, among our Hispanic students in ELA, they moved from 55% of students at or above grade level to 59% across that 3-year span. And our economically disadvantaged students in ELA going from 50 to 54%, and math 44 to 52%. I want to zoom in just briefly on Almond and Santa Rita schools. Last year when I was here, I showed you this slide. I added the new year to this just so you could see how things are changing for these two groups at Santa Rita and Almond. These are those two schools combined. And so you can see that we're making some small bits of growth for these groups of students. An important note here, something that this data doesn't tell us. Sorry, my notes are like mixed up here. Something that this data doesn't tell us is about students who fit both of these categories. So students who are Hispanic and also economically disadvantaged. And the numbers are very different from this for those students. We have, in this case, 32% of students, and this is across LASD, not just at Almond and Santa Rita, but 32% of students met in ELA and 28% of students met in math. So it's an alarming number when we consider this. It's 85 students last year who took the test who are both Hispanic and economically disadvantaged. And among those 85% of students, there's a very small percentage who are achieving at or above grade level. And it's an area where we need to continue to give focus and attention. It is an incredibly complex problem. And I think an important note here is that while students in this category have these two things in common, they might not have anything else in common. Every student has a unique profile and a unique set of needs. And so when we're thinking about the solutions that will actually move things forward for kids, we've tried and done so many things, and we need to continue to innovate around the things that are going to work for kids. We have focused on early learning with our work in expansion of TK, our work in early literacy. All of our teachers, and you'll hear me talk about this in a moment, but all of our teachers are now trained in Orton Gillingham methods in grades K through 2. We have a screener in place, which I've talked to you about before, the Dibble screener, so that we're catching early the students who are slipping, and we can get in with some early intervention. So we've done all of those pieces, and I will continue to talk in a moment about some of the other things that we're doing. But we know we need to do more for that group of students. Despite all of that, we are seeing some successes, and I've already highlighted some of them, but I pulled some images from the dashboard for Santa Rita and Almond because I think that they do a good job of showing some of the progress. Right now on the dashboard for Santa Rita and ELA, we don't have any groups of students in red or orange. Socioeconomically disadvantaged students remain in yellow, and all of our other groups of students are green and blue. When we zoom in on ELA, I'm going to show these three for Santa Rita and Almond, ELA and math. You can see that there is some significant growth for Hispanic students that were 19.5 points above standard with an increase of 5.3 points this year. English learners, 12.3 points above standard, 22 points increase this year. Economically disadvantaged children are still a concern. It looks a little different for math, where economically disadvantaged students are in green. You can see that while there's economically disadvantaged students are still below standards, we have made an increase with them this year. For Almond, the good news here is that there are no groups of students in red, orange, or yellow. And you can see this tremendous growth for Hispanic students at Almond School, jumping 63.2 points on average. And for English learners, 29.4 points. In math, same thing at Almond, no groups of students in red, orange, or yellow. And we see that same trend where we're seeing increase in points, even when for Hispanic students, even though they're still below standard, you can see that there's been some improvement there. The trend here that you see also is that we have a concern around our economically disadvantaged students. They're below standards, and in some cases, there has been a slight decline. So we need to give that more attention. I've named some of these things already, the things that we've been working on to support all students. In addition to the things I've already mentioned, we have mental health counselors across the district to support children. We've increased paraprofessional support at Santa Rita School. Our teacher training has really been broad. You heard Bailey and Jerome today talking about a group called practitioners. This work that we're doing around deeper learning is not just about our students who are high achieving. Deeper learning, we truly believe, is the pathway to equity for all students. When we think about the things that we want for kids, for them to leave our schools with a sense of hope, engagement, belonging, ready for the future, and academic achievement, we know that we have to give them experiences that lead to that. And when they have opportunities in school, when every child has an opportunity in school to do something that matters to them, that's purposeful, to be truly included in a classroom that is safe, where they belong, where they're challenged by their teacher and given the support that they need, they do make growth. When we have high expectation for kids, they rise to those expectations. And our work around deeper learning is about that. It's about how do we include every single student in the type of learning that is really going to develop them as full people. And we feel very, very confident that as we continue to do this work, we're going to see this expand for kids. So while we have some real successes and some real challenges, we also have some bright spots ahead, knowing that this work that we're doing around changing the quality of instruction that's happening in classrooms, we anticipate it's going to make a difference for kids in the long run. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. Maybe. Good have, sorry. Gavin Williams, did you need to make public comment on this item?
Yes, I wasn't sure to put it on an agenda, this agenda item or the non-agenda, but I did, it is largely related to this item.
Okay, because letter I is board and administration comments.
Oh,
You wanna
no, it's
comment
not.
on-
No,
No,
No, it's this
it's the,
section.
this section H, am I in the wrong?
yeah,
Not mine.
I run.
Yeah, right.
You've got it on, I've got it as H.
oh,
Okay,
okay.
all right, sorry about the confusion. Board members, any clarifying questions before you go to public comment? Oh, okay.
Poor Greg.
Brian, Vladimir, Jim.
I haven't been. I can't remember what the cutoffs are for the dashboards. So for almond, socioeconomic disadvantage is no performance color.
Mhm. It's because the group of students
Is
is very
30
small.
I'm surprised that 27 is too small. I thought when we had to start not reporting results because of privacy, it was so smaller number than that. But
I actually don't know the number, do you?
I don't know the exact number, and I actually think it's different depending on which
okay,
thing you're
that's
looking
fine. I
at.
just sort of wanted to flag that, even though technically we don't have anything in orange or yellow, like that, those results.
When there's
like,
no
they would be
color,
orange or yellow,
right? Sure.
if they were assigning a color. Based on
Yeah,
the underlying
sure.
numbers that are on the slide.
When you say, let's say Hispanic students are 16.2 points below standard, what is the standard for us?
Sorry, which slide are you on?
Oh, just, any slide, what is the standard in points? I want to know how big
Oh,
16.2 is compared to
Mhm.
what the standard is. If I remember correctly, it's something like 2,000.
it's a fairly large number, so we're talking about somewhat small margins here, very small margins. I can get the exact number.
No,
and
that's
send
all
it to
right.
you.
I just want to make that
Mhm.
point.
You have any clarifying questions?
No, I think.
Jim?
One or two questions.
Mhm.
So. You were talking about, and I know, we've heard from the public about this, but Hispanic and socioeconomically disadvantaged students being an area of concern. And so if somebody is both, do you know where they fall when the dashboard is preparing information by chance? Like, do they go into both?
They'll go into both.
Oh, they go into
categories.
both, okay. Then, just my other question is. Also for that group of students or any group of students that is. Not experiencing the same gains. On CASP testing. Because CASP testing is a moment in time,
Mhm.
and we are doing these other check-ins with them as part of the curriculum or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are we finding in those check-ins that they are also not meeting the standards or the grade levels, or are?
It's so dependent on student.
Okay,
We're talking about across the district, There were 85 students highlighted here, right? And we have students who show up in our screener as really at risk, and so we'll put them into an intervention program, and some of them make great progress, and we see it. We monitor their progress regularly, also using dibbles to ensure that they're making progress, and if they're not, then we take some further steps, right? We escalate the interventions, and so we see kids who make great progress.
Okay,
And we see kids who are not making great progress.
okay,
I think it probably is worth us investing some more time in following this specific group of students.
okay, okay.
So,
Oh, and I just wanted to clarify, could a student qualify as socioeconomically disadvantaged because of parental educational attainment and not because of economic circumstances? Both. Yeah, so it could be either one, right?
Correct.
So if a parent didn't have a high school diploma, they could also fall into that category.
Into what category?
Socioeconomically disadvantaged. So it's not just economically disadvantaged. It could be that you're
Okay.
similar
Yeah, could
economically,
qualify
but
for
your
greater
parents don't have.
encourage, yes.
move on to public comment and then we'll do board discussion. Gavin Williams?
Hi, guys.
Hi, you have
Thank you.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Gavin Williams, parent of two Santa Rita kids. And again, I wasn't sure to put this in non-agenda or agenda. It is related to the scoring. As a previous public commenter mentioned, Santa Rita does rank about 8% below the district in both ELA and math. 8% fewer med exceed, 8% more, below standard. So I get, and this has been for many years in a row, the gap has narrowed a little bit in the last year, but that gap does remain. I do have one question that I'll ask the board if it's possible to generate this, but it'd be great to see that data broken up out between those subgroups. So how those data look like year over year between economically disadvantaged, English language learners, et cetera, just to see if the gaps at Santa Rita, if it's driven by demographics and the greater vulnerable populations of the district or other factors. So that's just kind of one question I had. Point two, as we all do know, I think Santa Rita is amongst the districts that has possibly the most vulnerable populations of students. It might be close to another district, but I think it is at the lowest level. So then I guess if I take a step back and I hear Santa Rita has the lowest scores and the most vulnerable population, to me, it does seem like pretty kind of a rational next step to say that Santa Rita should have a higher on a per capita student basis set of resources to try to bridge that gap and try to care for those more vulnerable populations that our school has. I'm not as well informed as the previous public commenter about all the different resource buckets and allocation methodologies. I'm going to try to learn more about that. But my sense anecdotally is that it's not that, if anything, Santa Rita has more kind of resource disadvantages. We don't have new libraries and new playgrounds like are being done at some schools. We don't have a theater facility like most of the schools in the district have, et cetera. So I'm going to be personally trying to track down some of these resource numbers on, faculty level aids, resources, CapEx expenditures, age of facilities, et cetera, and come back and try to put that together for you guys. Maybe you guys already have that. But my just comment is mainly that low scores, vulnerable population should equal more resources, not less. So that's kind of the main thing I want to highlight for the group and really try to get to the bottom of that seems to be a kind of a disconnect in my mind when I think of those simple pieces. So just wanted to bring that to the board attention.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, board discussion. Question. I know that when the child is at school, we're trying to create the most supportive environment for learning. But are we working with parents just to talk to parents about how to create a supportive learning environment at home? Like, I wonder what happens when they leave here.
Sure, I think there are opportunities for us to do more in terms of parent education and supporting parents at home. Yeah.
I'd like to look into that. So,
Well, I wanted to build on what you said, and I remember we saw something about the parent university last school year, and I really loved a lot of the proposals there, and that's the sort of thing where I think it could well be the types of resources that could make a difference here.
sure.
And then I also wanted to comment, and not to dismiss any of the valid differences that people are highlighting here, and I completely agree that we need to do more to address those. But I also think we have, much to celebrate as well in your that you showed us in the slides. And I mean, going back to one of the slides that had outcomes across the district, I mean, there was a 9% improvement for English learners in math and 8% for socioeconomically disadvantaged students, like across the district. And I mean, I think we would be remiss to ignore that and not to celebrate the good work that went into that. And, hopefully we can, whatever led to those successes, that we can build on that and expand it. And it's, even if we are disaggregating sort of like Hispanic students as one group and the socioeconomically disadvantaged students as another, and we're not looking at the intersection exclusively, we did see actually a huge increase in the percentage of students meeting and exceeding expectations. And so I want to applaud all the staff and, time that went into getting us those outcomes.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We have done over the last, I don't know, 10 years.
Yeah.
But particularly in the last 5 years since the pandemic, so much work with early learning in particular, like there's a lot that has happened to support kids, and it is validating to see that there are some results coming from that.
So, I mean, I don't want to downplay the successes, but I think that the numbers are small enough. I find sort of the CASP stuff a little bit frustrating also, because when you're comparing different populations of kids, it's never totally apples to apples. I mean, we have a different set of kids now than we did 2 years ago.
Sure.
And sort of even the increase in sort of English language arts across economically disadvantaged students is small enough that I can't tell whether it's because the population is slightly different than it was, or because we're making success. So I would love to see, as we go into sort of the planning cycle for the next school year, I would love to see, first of all, do more goals, which I know we do on sort of behind the scenes around sort of the dibbles, the sort of just in time, the real-time testing we do, not the state stuff, which comes out a year later. But I would also love to have goals around improvement for students, sort of a little bit to Latimer's question about, how many points is a year of progress, that kind of thing. Like, I would love us to set as a board a goal of any student who's below grade level should make at least like 1.5 years of progress. Right, because that's a goal that doesn't really matter what population of kids you have right now. It's just looking at is every kid either at or above grade level or catching up? Because those are the kids who really run into trouble, or the kids who are behind and just get further behind or stay behind and all the rest of it. So yeah, I would love us to sort of kind of focus around that.
I'll be back in January, I believe, to look at our local assessment, our local data, and show what's happening there.
I was disappointed in the sort of seeming lack of progress of our most vulnerable students. And I have to say that, partially that's mine and the board's fault. This has been the same way for 11 years that I've been on the board. And I think we need to do something differently. I don't know what we're doing. We do something differently. My first observation was that, and this has nothing to do with the most vulnerable students, I guess my expectation is that we achieve over 90% for our students above overall. In both math and English language arts. It's just, I had no basis for that standard. It's just, I'd like to see 90% of our kids.
It represents some improvement.
Yes. Yeah. A quick comment about years of growth. Stanford has a website that has that information, but I don't know if they break it down by subgroups of students, but they do have years of growth for different districts, and I think they also have it for schools, but I can go check on that.
Okay.
They don't use CASP, they use the NAP
The math,
MWEA.
No, they use the national, whatever the national scorecard test is for their data.
Okay.
NAEP, I guess. Anyway, years ago, 5 years ago, something like that, I was at a Network for Public Education conference. And one of the speakers there was a man who at the time was president of the NAACP. And he came from Jackson, Mississippi. And he said, we know how to eliminate the achievement gap. And they're doing it in Jackson, Mississippi. So the fact that we can't do it doesn't speak highly of what we're doing. I don't think you or anybody else in the district is slacking off, not doing the right thing, whatever, just spinning wheels, whatever. But we have to do something different. I agree with you. One of the things that, again, I'm sure it's very kind. One of the things that would be interesting is look at the spread of how students are in these various subgroups. Because it could very well be, and you mentioned this something, that there are groups that are doing quite well, and then there are a bunch of students that are not doing really well. And then you mush them together as an average, and that sort of eliminates that distinction. Because for the students that are doing really well, we probably just want to continue what we're doing. The students that are not doing really well, we need to do something different. So we need to identify those particular students there that are not doing that well. One other thing is, we need to, I think it's reasonable to pull out of this data, not at the state level, but for our use, pull out students who don't speak English. Because it's sort of unreasonable to expect them to score highly if they just don't understand the language.
Well, that's why I think you should be measuring how much progress they're making.
Yeah.
Yes, that's.
I'll just add one more thing. Yeah, I would be interested in hearing more about whether there's any research on like what interventions or supports are most effective, in particular for or to help students sort of exceed what you might expect their outcomes to be based on parental educational attainment, because like that tends to be highly predictive of student performance, but there must be cases where students exceed that, right? And so what's working for those students? I'd like to know.
Well, I agree with everyone that something needs to change and we need to do something differently. But we do have some successful strategies because you are showing gains. So is there sort of like our own LASD best practices? Like, are there strategies that you can pull out that are working so we can do more of it? In addition to the research on like maybe what they're doing in Jackson, but other strategies that we're employing that are working.
There certainly are.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's the more focused interventions that we're doing that we see working. We see the progress that many of our students are making, as well as we are truly seeing classrooms transform this year in the way students are engaged in learning that matters to them, purposeful work, and we're seeing that among more of our subgroups of students that they're engaged in a different way. See, I mean, it's all anecdotal. I'm walking through classrooms and I'm seeing this. We're seeing this when we're walking through, but I don't want to downplay the work that we're doing around deeper learning is the important work that is the experts in our field are saying is going to lead students to to greater success, both academically and in life. The learning to learn work.
It's tough topic. I think.
Complicated. It's very complicated.
So, just one final comment. Even though we spend a lot of time looking at these
Mhm.
CAS scores, there are good reasons to believe that they're fundamentally flawed.
Sure.
And, maybe, if it were my druthers, I wouldn't present this at all. I would present what we think is important in terms of student movement.
Mhm.
And, I'm thinking that, you're talking about all of California does this. What do our particular students need in order to be successful in their lives? Now, that may be similar to other students, but it also may be subtly different from the rest of California. And so that's why I don't. If you ask me on a good day, as opposed to today, being a bad day, if you ask me on a good day, I'd say this is worthless stuff. I mean, as far as designing programs to make these scores better, I don't think we should do that. These scores will become better as an outcome of doing something else. So I guess that's what I want.
That makes sense to me here. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you, Greg. Right, next agenda item, establish date of annual board organizational.
No.
Come on now, I think we're up.
Item is the AI.
All right.
We'd like to welcome Grace Choi and our fantastic
Artificial
High School
intelligence.
Tech interns.
Hi, good evening. My name is Grace. I'm one of the coordinators in our curriculum instruction office. I am here to share with you the work that our AI work group had done this past trimester. This work actually started at the end of last year. Mountain View High School with Dr. Kip Glazer, along with the tech interns, were invited to host a AI play lab. We had students, parents, staff, some of the school board members too, I believe. They're just getting our feet wet into AI and topics around AI and playing with some of our different AI platforms as well. And clearly from that event, one of the needs that surfaced was to continue our understanding, our beliefs around AI as a district. And so while I could have easily plugged it into AI to create a, policy on our behalf, it really felt important to have all the stakeholders there to continue the conversation. And so with that, at the beginning of this year, we started to meet as an AI work group. And we have our lovely students here who are going to help guide at the conversation. We had in total 10 students, and we had an outcry of students who wanted to participate across our 6th to 8th grade students, but we wanted to keep it a work group. And so we limited the size to 10 students, 8 staff members, and 6 parents. We have Yosh, who is a junior at Mountain View High School. We have Nikita, a senior from Mountain View High School. Also, both of them are on the exec board of their tech MVHS tech interns who will share with us the work that we had done. We also have north side of campus being represented. We've got Armand representing Egan as an 8th grader here.
So I'm Yash, and I'll start by talking a little bit about the tech internship at Mountain View. So this is a program that Dr. Kip Glazer, our principal, started last year to really focus on helping parents, students, and staff with just tech support. A lot of these tech issues that are really common, it wasn't meant to be focused on AI. However, since then, we've shifted our focus into more AI, focusing on our community, involving our school district and the LASD school district as well, and just talking a little bit more about how AI affects us. So for our work group, we split it up into 3 days. We started by framing the conversation with a card game that we built. We built this card game to really talk about AI. And then using the card game, we decided to brainstorm and draft ideas. What do we want in an AI philosophy? What don't we want? And then we worked on actually drafting a policy and refining it on the third day. So we structured this over 3 weeks to ensure that everybody was able to participate critically and actually think about the philosophy that we were building.
Yeah, so a little bit about the card game that we created. This is something that Dr. Glazer and some of the tech interns worked on based off of the Engage AI Bill of Rights. And the point of this game was to foster discussion. So we wanted to make sure that the little groups that we were playing in were able to fully kind of understand what they really wanted in this philosophy and set like what their priorities were. So with the game, we would read out a scenario and they would choose one of 6 topics that they thought was best fitting for the scenario. Like, for example, support or fairness, which would be an ethical right that they thought would be important for the scenario.
I thought this game was actually pretty fun because usually when people learn about AI and those different scenarios, it's just a teacher telling a student or someone telling someone else. But this was a really fun way of discussing and having other people with you to discuss what scenarios these scenarios actually go into and what they categorize as. And from the game, the game led to unpacking like some important ideas about AI philosophy, which include data privacy and security, responsible use, and transparency. And our tech interns actually took notes about on these papers over here, as you can see, about the different types of requirements and restrictions that we should have in an AI philosophy.
So across the second and third day, we focused on actually prioritizing the components that we wanted on our AI philosophy and what we didn't want. So topics include data privacy and security, or transparency with AI, or learning outcomes. How can we best help the students? And we went through this with the lens of students, parents, and staff.
This was also a great experience because we were able to talk about, we were able to not just see my fellow students, what their ideas, but also see adults and parents and teachers and what they actually thought about these different AI processes. So it was a combination of all these different ideas from different age groups, which made it really fun.
Yeah, each of them had a pen, students, parents, staff, they were going at it on the draft there and really adding their voice to constructing our philosophy. And it was pretty unique what we did. And in that, we were featured. Washington Post, a journalist had come out and just had featured the work that we had engaged in, inviting students into the conversation. And we talk about student agency and choice and voice. And here are our grads and our current students helping to really shape our philosophy that we have. So Armand's going to just read just the first paragraph of our philosophy.
In Los Altos School District, our philosophy for artificial intelligence, AI, is guided by our commitment to helping every student thrive academically, socially, emotionally, and cognitively. We recognize that AI is not a substitute for human thought, judgment, or creativity. Rather, it is a powerful and evolving tool that can support, not replace, the essential role of teachers and students in thinking, learning, and creating. Our core principles ensure AI supports learning responsibly and ethically, extending human potential while protecting safety, equity, privacy, and fairness.
And the philosophy continues to name the principles that we hold dear. And I just want to reiterate that humans, right at the beginning here, talked about, where was it? Human thought, judgment. Yeah. We are the agents who are engaging with this. And so with that, we recognize there's a lot of work to be done in developing our students to be critically thinking as they're engaging in AI, especially for our TK8, 13 and over use, right, for AI tools. And so what does that mean within the context of our schools? And so those are things that we're going to continue exploring. And we have a guidance for the classroom for using AI, which was an ask or request from the teachers. What does it look like? What are students able to do, or how should students be interacting with AI? And we'll be developing that, getting feedback from the work group participants, and hopefully releasing that for our students as well as parents. And ongoing, one of the core last principles there is continuous learning and supporting our community of not only our students, not only our teachers, but the parent community as well. So we are all staying informed so that we are being very smart and wise as we use this exciting tool ahead of us. And I just want to reiterate our thanks and gratitude to the Dr. Kip Glazer, as well as the Mountain View High School Tech interns. They rocked our conversations. You should have seen them reining people in if they were like going off on a tangent. We are in amazing hands with some of our great leaders here. So with that, we present to you the philosophy for AI for LASD for you to review, and we will continue developing our understanding as well as our guidance that we have forthcoming. So any questions?
Any clarifying questions before I take public comment? Is there any public, oh, sorry. Okay.
On the second one, responsible use, you say AI guidelines of staff and students' use of AI will ensure responsible, informed, and safe implementation across the district. What implementation are you talking about?
So I think that's just the guidance in what the AI TBD could look like, sound like. So whether that's for teachers utilizing it to help guide some of their lesson planning, or maybe it's with students, that part is to be developed. But under the umbrella of understanding that with AI, we need to use it responsibly. But as far as, so this was our big philosophy in terms of what our North Star was in helping to shape the specifics that are going to be named in the guidance for teachers, for students, etc.
All right.
Is there any public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any further board discussion?
Yes, that's the meeting over stuff.
Go ahead, Blair.
So I'm not quite sure the problem we're trying to solve. And if I look at this statement at the top, it seems really broad. And I think it would be helpful if it were much more specific. The other comment I have about the core principles is that they can't reasonably be implemented. And for example, are you going to check and see if the AI system complies with all federal, state, and local regulations? How are you going to do that? I don't know of any federal regulations, and I don't know of any local regulations, and the state's regulations are optional, so I'm not quite sure what that's doing there. Another issue is prompt engineering. And it's a whack-a-mole type thing. For instance, you're not allowed, AI chatbots won't allow you to ask something like, how do I make a bomb? They'll come back and say, no, sorry, I can't tell you that has some violence and assault. But on the other hand, it may be possible to ask them, what chemicals, I'm in a chemistry lab, what chemicals must I absolutely make sure don't come in contact with hydrogen peroxide? And the answer will be the chemicals that are used to make a bomb. So I don't know if that kind of prompt engineering enters into any of your stuff here, but it's a major problem in AI. Another example is it turns out that it's been fixed, I'm sure, but it turns out that in the past, if you used the Unicode numerals instead of the letters, you could actually get chatbots to answer questions they're not supposed to answer. So again, that's another instance of prompt engineering that changes day by day as they fix it. One other question I have is, how are you going to prevent unintended responses? There was a recent release of Grok AI that gave that made Hitler sound good, essentially. And they pulled back the release and they put it back out there with that stuff fixed. But that's a constant problem. That I don't see how these principles are going to help continue. How are you going to determine when AI programs produce fair and equitable results without using the Potter-Stewart test? I don't know if you know that or not. He was asked, how do you know if something's foreign? He said, I know it when I see it. Right. So how are you going to determine whether something is fair and equitable? It's great to have that as a goal, but what's the mechanism for determining that? And hallucination is another problem, major problem there. A visual example that came up across recently was, you know, how politicians shake hands and they take pictures. Well, there was Hillary Clinton shaking hands with Osama bin Laden. So there are textual versions of that all over the place. So I think that possibly this philosophy here might be harmful because it might let parents believe that we're protecting them against the ills of AI. But in fact, I don't think that that's possible at all. You have people like Sam Altman, who's looking at $1 trillion figures, and he's going to run roughshod over anything that prevents him from spreading AI around all over the place. So I don't know how that affects us, but it makes us a very, very, very small player in the use of AI. I think, if it were up to me, I would replace all of this with one rule and one recommendation. And the rule would be that without exception, teachers and students must identify when they use AI and how they use it. So if they look up something, it's got to be in there. I looked up this in AI. How they use it, they might use it to generate ideas, but that has to be stated someplace in whatever they do. But I think that doing let me go back to data privacy and security. Was there an intent to put identifiable student data into a prompt? What kind of issue in terms of data privacy might arise?
One-
Yash, you can take test fine, yeah.
Yeah, one potential example is for anything that makes the teacher's lives easier. For example,
Teachers like what?
easier.
Okay.
For example, one thing in high school is a lot of teachers make seating charts and just automating that process, giving all the names to AI and just automating the process. Can you make a seating chart, which will assign where each student sits? Or any small task, for example, it can be, we don't want to do AI grading, but there could be AI automation potentially. We just want to make sure that AI doesn't have access to sensitive information. And I think the point of this was more of that direction. We just want to make sure that our students' information is safe. And that's why we included that section.
Okay, you do realize that every engineer and every AI company has access to all the data. Okay, so there's no question that it's keeping it private.
Vladimir, I wonder if I can help reframe this a little bit for you.
Yeah.
In a sense, because right now we're in a TK8 realm. We're talking about 4 to mostly 12. We have a handful of kids who are 13, but it's a small handful by the time they're towards the end of 8th grade. I think this was really meant to be, what do our kids need to know before they even start using AI?
Okay, that ship has sailed.
Sure, but it's also the expectation is, and if it's not direct, it's certainly implied, but it will be direct soon, that we're teaching kids how to be responsible users of AI. Not saying that they might not be using it at home or what have you, but we do want them to understand data and privacy. We want them to be able to understand what does responsible use look like, including things like
naming it when you use it and how you use it. How do you prompt engineer? How do you become aware of biases that come out and hallucinations and all this? So this is really, as Grace kind of called it, like a North Star. What do we need to be thinking about at the highest level when we're talking about AI?
Remember, last year, I believe we had a AI summit or something like that at the block. There were kids who knew more than the presenters.
These kids.
Yeah, these kids were
These
there.
are the kids that were there.
Okay, but all I'm saying is that in the classrooms I was at,
Yeah.
there were kids that knew more than the presenters there. So I think that, maybe for K3, we can sort of like be good, be nice. But for the other kids. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's a fool's errand.
I think though that with this new world of AI, right, coming as someone who's very distrustful of technology, I'll just it's kind of the Wild West. And I feel like maybe it would have been helpful to explain why we're a philosophy statement as opposed to like, which you just did, I know that, but it's a little bit of a roadmap or a guide. And like you called it the North Star, right? And just to kind of make our way through this Wild West jungle that we have, this is what's kind of help us guide. It's not telling us where to make the left and where to make the right and which stream to avoid and which cave not to go into. But it's kind of like, this is where we're heading. And I think that was the purpose, right, of this exercise. And I thought you guys did a really great job.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's just how I see the philosophy statement, like why I found this valuable.
And I think it is a beginning conversation. We didn't present it as a policy for you to decide and put into your board. We, again, are continuing conversations around. And to your point, Vladimir, the AI world is changing faster than we could name it. We also recognize our kids are utilizing it, whether we want them or not. They're seeing it at the deep fakes, the things that are being streamed on their phones. I'm sure you're not supposed to or what have you, but I think at the heart of all of this, we want students to be critical, and we're thinking about how do we develop that perspective, all the while there are specific components within AI that we need to be constantly thinking about and bringing awareness to. And I love that you're thinking about all those things, and certainly a reflection of more work that our district needs to be naming, building, and growing in our understanding around to better support our students.
It would be helpful to, not obviously right now, but to give us some kind of context about what our students are using devices for at this point and what tools they're using on those devices. Because I mean, a lot of the AI, the landscape is changing fast, right? And so a lot of these guidelines sound like they were built with sort of chatbots in mind or other things, whereas AI responses are being built into everything, whether it's Google
Siri.
stuff or Siri or Chrome. I read an article just the other day about a teacher who realized that the Chromebooks that his students had been issued by the school to use now had a Google Lens feature that he didn't know about. So he was having students take a test on the Chromebook, and students could just use Google Lens to cheat without even entering a prompt into anything. They could just highlight something on the screen and it would give us a response. So I think it would be, helpful for us to sort of understand at TK through 8, like to what extent are kids using specific apps that we are giving them and have some control over versus to what extent they're just using tools that we have very little control over or no control over. I think the other thing, and I know this is a deeper thing, but any resources that you might have in terms of research onto what is actually important for kids to learn as we think about these things, as I'm sure you think about these things. I mean, to me, like we almost have to go back to first principles. And like when we used to assign essays for kids to write at home, what were we hoping that they would learn? Because they're not going to learn that way anymore. So how do we replicate that going forward? I mean, that's what, as somebody who's not an educator, that's what sort of blows my mind, is how do you sort of deconstruct and reconstruct? And course change, right?
Sure.
Because I know we've done a lot of flipping classrooms and, you know, over the last couple of decades, we've done a lot of work on new math curricula. And nothing's ever perfect the first time, right? I know there are kids who need more practice than they have built into our math curricula now, and so we've got to figure out how to do that. I worry that we're gonna end up with the same thing with writing, like there's kids who need to just write to learn these things, and they're not gonna be able to do that at home because the temptation is gonna be way too great. And so how do we then find a different way to teach them?
To kind of build on what you said and to reference Craig's presentation, I don't want to see the use of AI creating the academic gap even wider.
Sure.
You know, it has wonderful potential to close that gap, but there's the flip side to it.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you so much for. I'm sure you have, more fun things you could be doing and, thank you for all the time that you put into it. I'm so impressed by all the work that you did, really.
And I'm very honored that we're your first clients.
Yeah, sure.
So we get more. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Many more conversations to be had. Thank you.
Complicated subject.
Complicated indeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just checking with your agenda. Are we doing the resolution?
We're doing the resolution.
Okay. Resolution number 25/26-05, establishing a building fund to track general obligation bond measure EE. Mr. Walikevich.
Yeah, so as we're getting ready to issue our first Series A bonds for Measure EE, we'll be doing that in the spring. We'll bring a calendar to you in January to talk about the first sale. But to do so, we'll have to set up a fund at the county treasury. So tonight will be a resolution to establish the building fund to track expenditures. Measure N is tracked in Fund 211. This will be established Fund 212. And we'll keep both bond funds separate for accounting purposes. So tonight we're asking to pass resolution 25/26-05 to establish a building fund, track general obligation bond measure.
Thank you. Are there any clarifying questions before I take public comment? Is there anyone for public comment? He's gonna pass. Public comment is now closed. Are there any further comments, board members? Then that. Okay, then may I have a motion to approve resolution number 25/26-05, establishing a bond fund to track general obligation bond measure EE.
So moved.
Thank you, Vladimir. I have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Stella. Any further board discussion? Okay. Motion to approve resolution number 25/26-05, establish a building fund to track general obligation bond measure EE was made by Vladimir and seconded by Stella. I'll take roll call vote. Stella?
Yes.
Vladimir?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
I too vote yes, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Alrighty. Establish date of annual board organizational meeting.
Yes, so Ed Code requires that we establish a date for your annual organization meeting, and we are recommending December 15th, which is our next board meeting, to be that annual organization meeting.
Any clarifying questions? Any public comment? No. Any further board discussion? Seeing none? Oh, yes, please. Yes.
Presumably this December 15th date meets the requirements that it occurs within the first 2 weeks of December or something like that. I don't know what the requirement is, but there's some sort of requirement for the organization.
It has to be after the second Friday in December.
Okay. And anytime after that?
We don't have to worry about it this year because we do not have an election this year.
Good. All right, thanks.
Good question. Thank you. Alrighty. So, seeing no further discussion, may I have a motion to establish December 15th, 2025 as the date of the annual organizational meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Bud. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Stella. Any further board discussion? Nope. Okay. Motion to establish December 15th, 2025 as the date of the annual organizational meeting was made by Vladimir and seconded by Stella. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Board policy updates.
All right, you have 7 new board policies to review between now and December 15th. Please reach out if you have questions, concerns, comments before then would be great.
Thank you.
And one of the items I started working on today happens to be with G here, BB 9240 board training. So we will be developing a professional development calendar for the board. Very exciting.
Any clarifying questions on this agenda item? Any public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Any further board discussion? Nope. All righty, then we're gonna move on. Board and administration comments.
Just a quick comment, thank you. We are looking forward to convening our calendar committee to do the work of proposing calendars for next school year. We do have MBLA's calendar, we have now Valerie on board who can help us with that process. So we look forward to bringing forward recommendations shortly.
Thank you. Eric?
I want to thank Santa Rita.
Yeah,
Love swag. Yes, and I really enjoyed the AI presentation because I would love for them to do the 175-page budget book using AI. So I will talk to them.
Ethical problems,
Yeah.
really. Let's go down to our core principles there.
Yes, Sandra mentioned some exciting news for the San Antonio campus. Yes, we're in design development. We've had a lot of big meetings the last few weeks with the design team, working on the bathroom locations, the stage, the surgery, all the comments that were from our principals and our staff, and then also from board comments, or to take all those into account. We kicked off some city joint use meetings for the fields and gym with the city of Mountain View, so that's been good to get those meetings kind of kicked back off again. We have an appointment with the Division of State Architect on Thursday for the San Antonio campus. It's like a pre-meeting before we submit in December. So that's exciting. In the old days, before AI, you'd actually have to go to the Oakland office for these meetings, but now they're doing them on Zoom, which is great because parking up there is really tough. There's a good sandwich spot by the DSD office though. Staff has been working on first interim. We had a property tax meeting last week from the county, so we'll be updating the board on the property tax numbers from the assessor's office. And then 2 items I want to highlight. We went to the SF Squared Schools for Sound Finance Conference at West Valley College at the end of October. It was a great, and that is a advocacy group for basic aid or community funded districts. And it's always good to get talk from your colleagues up and down the state. And as more districts are becoming basic aid because their enrollment is dropping, and so their property taxes are going up and enrollment's dropping, so they're moving into basic aid. Cupertino this year is in basic aid. Sometimes they're out, sometimes they're in. This year they're back in basic aid. And then at night, I also attended the late phone-a-thon, which was a lot of fun, calling people and texting them and saying, please give us money. That was great. So thank you. A lot of activity last couple of weeks.
It's like a marathon to the end of the year. Andrew? Stella?
I also attended the SF Squared regional meeting, and I did a Springer school visit with Sandra, which was always lovely. And as part of school ambassadors, we participated in the Los Altos Village Association downtown Halloween event. And I'd like to give a shout out to Lupe and Kimberly Dickerson for helping me at the event, and all our docent volunteers. We have coloring sheets, including our school mascots for the children. And we did have some families like really interested in the new family info night. And also, I also handed out flyers at the holiday stroll on Friday and have continued to meet with school ambassadors.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for all that work. James?
No, I just want to give a shout out to Eric. I attended the school finance masters in governance thing, and in our it was virtual. In our breakout sessions, I talked to other trustees, the districts that don't have somebody as kind as Eric, who will sit with them and go through financials for hours on end. So we have a great staff all around, but I just wanted to show it to.
That's nice. Fun.
Nothing in particular, except, a reminder that we have, annual education conference coming up.
Yes, we do.
In, 14 days, yeah, 14 days. And we always have a lot of fun. And we learn.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, that.
We learn.
In Sacramento this year. Woo, sorry. No disrespect to Sacramento. I went to Challenge Team this week. We had the youth advisory group from Mountain View who presented, so getting double dose of our amazing teenagers who live in this area. The School Boards Association, the Santa Clara County School Boards Association, had an unhoused student symposium on Saturday, which was really well attended. We had a few city council members there too, which is really great. I think that's just the beginning of a longer discussion. So it's really. Oh, and then one other thing I forgot to ask. The Washington Post article, is that on our website?
Good question.
We should put it on our website.
I know
The
it went
Washington
through
Post
social
article,
media, but
Yeah, I think that the kids were doing.
What about-
I was just asking if it's on our website. It'd be
Oh, I
nice
see.
to put it on our website. Alrighty, and with that, I'm going to adjourn tonight's meeting.